Hi, my name is Tabitha, and today I'm going to be going over a PowerPoint called Beyond the Separation, the Behavioral and Emotional Effects of Divorce on Children Under Age 12 Across Developmental Stages. So, just to start, a little backstory. Divorce, there's about 30 to 40% of children that are affected by divorce in the United States, according to Moya Lopez et al. 2025. Most of the divorces are happening before the age of 12 years old. And what we're going to do today is take a look at how the children are affected by their parents' divorce. So another statistic from Love Hurts Divorce Rates Remain High 2024 states that the United States is still ranked one of the 13th highest countries for divorce in the world. Um, it also shows that 41% of first marriages end in divorce, 60% of second marriages, and 73% of third marriages all end in divorce, according to Love Hurts Divorce Rates Remain High 2024. So to start, we're going to get through the developmental stages of the child. And according to Erik Erikson, he studied the psychosocial stages of development in children, and it starts from infancy until death. But what we're going to focus on is infancy until adolescence. So, starting with trust and mistrust, autonomy versus shame, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, and identity versus role confusion. So during each stage, the child will learn to develop a sense of hope, which would be trust versus mistrust. They'll also become confident and or experience self-doubt, which is autonomy versus shame. Establishing independence is the initiative versus guilt. They also are developing self-awareness, industry versus inferiority. And identity versus role confusion is when they understand who they are socially through in the world. And all of this is according to Howson and Gold 2026. Jean Paget also studied children and the developmental stages throughout our lives, but the cognitive stages. So, starting with the sensory motor stage, when you're a baby, that's when your cognitive developmental starts. So, it starts right at birth, and that's when the baby is understanding how the world is, and they're using the objects around them to understand how the world is and what the world is. Next would be the pre-operational stage, when that's when you start to develop an understanding for the environment, and that happens after the age of 2. The concrete operational stage happens between the ages of 7 and 11, and that's when the child starts to understand more and they think a little more logically and they're aware of what's happening around them. The final stage is the formal operational stage that happens after 12 years, at 12 years old and later, and that's when an individual would start to problem solve and think outside of the box, and they really have a grasp of understanding of situations around them. And that's all from Babkar et al. 2019. So the understanding of divorce, since the sensorimotor stage is during infancy. They don't have very much understanding of the divorce, but once they get to preschool, they'll start to understand a little bit more that their parents are not together, and they start to question why their parents aren't together. And then once they're in elementary school, they understand that their parents aren't together. They might not know why, but they understand that they're not together, and they start to question if it were them or if what was the problem. Once a child is in industry versus inferiority stage, they start to blame themselves, and they feel as if their parents are getting separated or divorced because of something that they did. At 12 years old, when the child starts to understand the meaning of divorce, and they're going through their role confusion, it can start to confuse them if because they understand what's going on and they don't know if it's them. They start to try to um, save the family, in other words. Um, Houston et al. 2017 had conducted a study of 2,500 children aged 2 to 4 whose parents were divorced to determine if these children were at a greater risk for emotional and behavioral difficulties, as opposed to children who are in a two-parent household. The study concluded that they were more likely to have a hard time, and they would have a hard time following directions, were more hyper and more aggressive. These children also had tantrums and other problem behaviors. Children 3, 5, and 9 also experience sleep difficulties. Rudd et al. 2021 says that it's due to factors such as the mother working late, inconsistent routines, and a change in households. And that is because of their socioeconomic status and how it is impacting the child negatively. This slide shows that children of lower socioeconomic classes experience behavioral difficulties due to the lack of sleep. Rudd et al. 2021. It shows all of the factors that directly affect the child and their sleep habits, like external and internal factors that would affect the sleep of the child. Children of divorce also have social difficulties. They struggle to make meaningful bonds. Children aged 3 to 7 experience slower development physically and emotionally. Kang et al. 2025. Children aged 9 to 12 struggle with concentration and motivation. Alarescu and Diku 2024. And socio-demographic factors matter, like the stress, violence, abuse, and limited education in their environment. Moshe 2026. So, children that have divorced parents, it's important that their parents try to help them as much as they can. Studies show that children of divorce find it harder to concentrate and stay motivated to complete tasks during their school day. And research found that the conflict between the parents makes it harder for the child to manage their stress and anxiety, which causes all of these additional problems. It's also noted that children become insecure in unfamiliar situations and would withdraw from social activities to avoid the stressors. Studies concluded that not the divorce itself doesn't bring on these struggles with the child. It's the amount of conflict and hostility between the parents. And that's from Olarescu and Diku 2024. Moshe 2026 also discusses the interpersonal and social demographic factors associated with divorced parents. This research indicated that a child that divorce has a greater impact on children of divorce who are of lower socioeconomic status. This is because the children are exposed to more stress and violence, substance abuse, and they also have limited access to education. For positive outcomes, the family should stay committed to stability along with education. This table shows how children aged 3 to 7 of divorced parents are developmentally slower than children in a two-parent household. This study was conducted in China, and it was noted that children with separated parents not only develop slower emotionally, but also physically and academically. According to the study by King et al. 2025, children of divorce have poor physical health and hygiene habits, and this can be due to a change in family stress or changes in routine like having to go from one parent to another. Cognitively, this child is also behind, and it was found through lower test scores that they perform academically lower overall. They also had a lack of emotional and social skills. So the child doesn't only have behavioral effects from the divorce, but also emotional effects like sadness. Emotionally, children also feel anger, and that anger stems from their frustration. They're upset about the time away from each parent that they have. They're used to being with both parents, and now they're only with mom for a certain amount of time and with dad for a certain amount of time. And since they don't really understand that, they become angry. They also have a hard time adjusting to the new normal. It does take children a little bit of time until they are adjusted, if they ever adjust to the new normal for them. They also become overwhelmed with their emotions, and since they don't know how to express them like adults, they become angry, and their expression is now projected as anger. The parents should also help to find healthy coping mechanisms suitable for the child and their age so that they are not always so angry. But it's also acceptable for a parent to speak to the child about any unwanted behavior. Other emotional effects of divorce are anxiety, which are feelings of uncertainty, extensive worrying, or sleep bruxism, which is common. Moya, Moya Lopez et al. 2025. Depression, loneliness and anxiety can lead to depression, which is also common in children of divorce. And loneliness, the child often will separate themselves from others because They are adjusting to their new normal. And research shows that girls aged 11 and 12 experience feelings of rejection, loneliness, mistrust. They feel as if they have no emotional connection to their parents. And that's Ramzadeh et al. 2022. This slide shows how anxiety is linked to the grinding of teeth during when the child is sleeping, and it's more common in children of divorce, and that's just shown here in this table. So the factors that influence behavioral and emotional effects on children are stability, parental conflict, and support systems. For stability, unstable living arrangements can make it really hard for the child to adjust. And when there's no custody agreement, there's no stability and it leads to inconsistencies for the child. Any inconsistency will make it hard for the child, no matter what the age, but especially for school age children who are just learning who they are and how the world works. It becomes confusing as to why they are now going to two different households. There's also a poem that stood out by Marriage, DNA, Divorce, Custody provides the perfect visual how the child feels during a custody battle. And it goes, a child stands at the crossroads of shattered night, yearning for warm embrace of both guiding light. Custody battles carve scars in innocent skin. Visitation hours mark the rhythm of hope within. The broken home echoes alone, determined plea for reunions to mend love and set the spirit free. Oben 2025. So that basically is just giving a visual as to how a child feels during divorce, that their life has shattered in one night and they have two guiding lights, which are both parents, mom and dad, and that they're so innocent and they don't understand what's going on. They have hope that everyone will get back together to fix what was broken so that they can be free. Parental conflict is a factor that can lead to emotional and behavioral difficulties with children. Unhealthy co-parenting relationships tend to have stricter or harsher parenting styles. Becker et al. 2022, where mom may be a little more lenient and dad is a little more harsh, or dad is harsh and mom is lenient. Mom is harsh and dad is lenient. It becomes confusing for the child as to the rules and how they should act and what they should do. And when the punishment is more harsh or the parenting style is more harsh, the child may feel as if they are restricted with one parent, and when they're with their other parent, they release all of the energy and feelings that they had. It can create a conduct disorder. It can also change how the children interact with others because watching your parents fight will make it seem like it's okay for you to do those things as well. And how they talk to each other, it makes the child feel as if they are able to do the same. It can negatively impact the communication with others, and it can also cause confusion. Support systems for children of divorce are usually family and friends to provide comfort. Grandparents and aunts and uncles, they provide emotional reassurance and guidance along with familiarity because they are in the family and it shows that the child still has family around and something positive for them. They can also become positive influences and provide healthy coping options for the children. Teachers also provide stability because school is where they go every day, and the teachers can add comfort. Atiles et al. 2017. The long-term effects of divorce are they struggle with rejection in adulthood. Shan and Vogel, 2016. These there was research done that shows that these individuals are less resilient and they struggle with stress, anxiety, and depression. They also have difficulties with their own romantic relationships and difficulties with trust due to what they experienced at a young age. This table shows that research shows 44% of adults in the study suffered from psychological challenges such as depression and anxiety that were related to their parents' separation. So, this is a study done later in life after the parents divorced as children. In conclusion, just because the parents are separated, it can cause challenges, but it doesn't always mean that there are negative outcomes. The children are resilient and have the ability to adjust and adapt to their surroundings. So, if they receive a lot of love and emotional support from trusted adults, the adaptation will be a positive experience. And then we've got the references here. Thank you.